I want to work taking care of and training animals. That's what Dawn Brancheau said when she turned 10 years old. At 24, that wish came true. But one day, after 16 years as a trainer, she was brutally attacked and killed by a 6-ton orca in front of at least 24 tourists. These are the terrifying final moments of Dawn Brancheau. Welcome to Animal Sentence. In 1979, 10-year-old Dawn Brancheau visited SeaWorld in Orlando with her mother. There, she saw her first chamois show. That's where it all began. The moment she saw the giant orca leaping out of the water, she chose her career for the rest of her life. From a very young age, Dawn was convinced that she wanted to work as an animal trainer. But at that time, she had no idea what awaited her in the future. "This is what I want to do," she told her mother as they walked down the aisle of Chamois Stadium. With the vision of becoming an animal trainer, Dawn went to the University of South Carolina to study psychology and animal behavior. After graduating, she spent 2 years working with dolphins at an attraction in New Jersey before landing her position at SeaWorld. Dawn Brancheau was undoubtedly an animal lover. She adored her 2 golden retrievers and volunteered at an animal shelter in her spare time. She also raised several stray ducks, chickens, rabbits, and small birds at her home. Early in her career, she worked with otters and sea lions at Six Flags amusement parks in 1994, and in 1996 she was transferred to SeaWorld to work with orcas. That same year, she married Scott Brancheau, an acrobatic skier at SeaWorld. In 2000, Dawn appeared in a television interview to discuss the importance of staying in good physical shape to work with these giant underwater creatures. She lifted weights, ran, and cycled. Physical fitness was a lifestyle for Dawn. She had to stay extremely fit to do what she did. Dawn was fully aware of the risks of her job and even spoke about them. She discovered that orcas rarely, if ever, attack humans in the wild, and that the chances of this happening in captivity were very low. Interestingly, interactions between orcas and divers or fishermen demonstrated that they were highly social, intelligent, and curious creatures. During her time with the orcas, she met Tilikum, whose name actually meant friend in Chinook, though his history discreetly betrayed that he was not. Tilikum, also known as Blackfish, was first captured in Iceland in 1983. Tilikum was only 2 years old when he was separated from his family off the coast of Iceland and taken to a concrete tank at the Marine Zoo in Hafnarfjordur, near Reykjavik. For nearly a year, he could only swim in circles or remain motionless at the water's surface while awaiting his transfer to Canada. In 1984, Tilikum was moved to his new home, Sealand of the Pacific, which was in poor condition, located on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. He was placed with 2 older female orcas named Haida II and Nutka IV, who competed for dominance. As in nature, females occupy the highest rank in the social hierarchy. A trainer who worked at Sealand in the late 80s revealed that Tilikum was often the target of attacks from the 2 female orcas, often emerging the next day with visible injuries. The extreme stress caused Tilikum to develop stomach ulcers and be isolated in a medical pool to protect him from violent attacks. To solve the problem, Sealand sought advice from Bruce Stevens, a former head trainer at SeaWorld, who provided the trainers with a manual warning them that if they did not properly stimulate their animals, the animals would create their own excitement. However, biologist Eric observed that there were hardly any improvements. The intelligence and needs of the animals were not sufficiently considered. As Bruce had warned, the orcas began playing with new objects in their tank and refused to release them, becoming increasingly aggressive. In May 1989, Eric resigned and reported the aquarium's safety issues to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies. including his ominous premonition that someone would be seriously injured. He had a terrifying final warning: "I believe sooner or later someone will be seriously injured." On February 20th, 1991, after a performance, a tragic incident occurred when a 20-year-old marine biology student from the University of Victoria and part-time trainer named Kelty Byrne slipped and accidentally fell into the Orca pool. Tilikum and the two female orcas then attacked and killed her. She was just a 20-year-old student working part-time with orcas for extra income. Unfortunately, Kelty accidentally fell into the pool and was hunted by Tilikum and the other two orcas. Shortly after the terrible incident, Sealand closed its doors and the orcas were sold to SeaWorld in 1992. The animals became part of the park's orca exhibit, with little attention paid to their aggressive reputation. Tilikum was the largest orca in captivity. In 1999, Tilikum was involved in another strange, fatal accident in which a homeless man died. Despite his history, Tilikum remained on display at SeaWorld, earning a lot of money for the company. Tilikum and Dawn had trained together for many years. Those who worked with her said their bond was strong and based on love and trust. But on February 24th, 2010, the day of the Shamu show, a terrible tragedy occurred. That day, Tilikum and Dawn performed in SeaWorld's Dining with Shamu show, where guests enjoyed an outdoor dinner with a live orca show. The 40-year-old trainer was comfortable with the orca and had just petted his nose, but what happened next left the audience and the world in shock. Dawn lay with her face next to Tilikum's, the orca she had spent countless hours with and who had always treated her like a trusted companion. But Tilikum grabbed his trainer and lifelong friend. Witnesses claim that Tilikum grabbed her by the ponytail and then pulled her into the water. He then began to thrash her underwater with his mouth. However, according to other witnesses, he dragged her into the pool by her arm or shoulder. The trainer was quickly and violently dragged into the pool, where she drowned. The attack was prolonged and incredibly violent. According to a public autopsy, Tilikum slammed his trainer around the pool, breaking her jaw, crushing part of her spine, dislocating one of her elbows, and even dislocating a knee. Dawn Brancheau drowned after being dragged into the SeaWorld pool on February 24th around 2 p.m. and died from blunt force trauma to the head, neck, and chest, according to the autopsy. The orcas attacked her with such force that, according to the autopsy, they forcibly tore off part of her scalp. The violent movements of the orcas fractured Dawn's lower jaw, part of her vertebrae, and several ribs. They also forcibly removed her left arm from its socket. The autopsy was made public while SeaWorld and Dawn's family awaited a court ruling on their request to keep a video of the fatal attack private. Although other trainers tried to distract Tilikum with nets and food for 45 minutes, he continued to sit on the pool deck with Dawn's broken body. Finally, they managed to move him to a smaller medical pool where it was easier to calm him, and he finally released the body of the trainer he had spent so much time with. Dawn Brancheau was only 40 years old when she died. She was buried at Holy Sepulchre Cemetery, located outside Chicago, Illinois. Dawn's family prefers to remember her for how she lived rather than how she died. Her family created an organization in her honor in 2016. Its purpose, according to them, is committed to improving the lives of children and animals in need, motivating others to pursue their aspirations, and promoting the value of community service. Tilikum had to spend most of his days after this violent attack in a pool with little public exposure. It has been reported that he spent hours lying on the water's surface, and to this day, no one knows why Tilikum decided to attack Dawn, grab her, and drag her into the pool. After Dawn's fatal accident, the orca remained at SeaWorld, where he died of a lung infection in 2017. SeaWorld did not take responsibility for Dawn's death. In August 2010, when they were cited by OSHA for 3 safety violations, they were only fined $75,000. This sad and heartbreaking story about Dawn Brancheau, who fell victim to a fatal attack from an animal sentence.